Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to That Tribal Woman, where we talk about the Mizo society and its association with the Western world. And if you made it back to this third episode, man, you guys just freaking rock. And I cannot thank you enough. Ka episode patum na kalolom lutse ka tinung chunil jangin kalom takse teti kakasay na nedua. And to my Western folks, if you somehow made it to this page and hit the like and subscribe button, guess what? You get to learn the ancient tribal language called the Mizo. So yay! It's a win-win. And the topics are always interesting here, right? Always. So yeah, let's get into it. Oh. Hi, Michael.
Hey Fee, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Great to see you. I was thinking we can start off with introducing you. And yeah, so folks, this is Michael. Michael, I'm just gonna call you just by your first name if that's okay.
Yeah, Michael is perfect.
Okay, Michael, and he is actually a old classmate of mine at college.
Right on.
Yeah. So yeah, I was wondering if you would like to just talk a little bit more about you, like where you're from, like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my name is Michael. I am both from Senegal, West Africa, and Brazil. So French and Portuguese are my native tongues. I came to the US, like Fee, for college, and then we went to the same school, college. After that, I've been working, and then I went back to grad school, and now I'm working again. So in a nutshell, that is who I am.
Yeah. So Michael, do you actually introduce yourself as Portuguese, French? Or do you just...
No, but I figured your audience might be interested because I do have an accent, so...
Oh, okay.
And I do think I can present as many things, so it's kind of hard to be like, what is he?
That's true. You know, that's something that I wish well, if we have time, like maybe we can talk on that too, right? About the colonizations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking, you know... So I want to talk to you a little bit about my society. So I belong to a tribe community. So we are the Mizo tribe. So I belong to the Mizo tribe. We are just living in a state called Mizoram, which is in India. So Mizoram just means land of the Mizo. So yeah. So yeah, I'm making this podcast for them, and I was thinking, you know, it'll be interesting to have someone that is of a darker skin color because, you know, basically, we just have this kind of negative stereotype when it comes to Black folks, and just, I don't know, like, I feel like we're a little bit more racist still towards, you know, the Black race versus, you know, other races in the world. So I just thought, you know, it would be interesting to have you speak a little bit about it and just kind of have like a conversation on that. So yeah, so a little bit more about us. So we are basically sojourners. Like the Mizos, we have just been like moving everywhere. Like we have just we're just like migrations everywhere. And yeah, we talked, well, I guess you talked a little bit about like the colonization. We were actually colonized by the British. So we don't really actually have a country of our own. So whatever we conquered or whatever land we settled on, that was our land for the time being. But, you know, the British came and colonized India and, you know, Burma. And then that's kind of somehow the reason why we ended up in India. So yeah. But anyways, I was just like kind of talking about that because since we were colonized, like, you know, after we were colonized, right, we just had more people just trying to invade us. So we just always have had this fear of being, I don't know, like being run off the earth, you know, because we're tribal people. We don't have great weaponry, like we don't have great, you know, weapons to fight someone versus like, you know, the West, they had great guns, like, you know, if they really truly wanted, you know, kind of just kill us all, right? I mean, that's going too far, but you know what I mean. But
I know what you mean,
yeah, they're way more powerful than we are. So like we have always had this kind of like fear that we would just be a tribe that just got wiped off of the face of earth, right? But I feel like because of that fear, we have always been so reclusive. Like if you try to come, like if you come to India, right, and then you try to come to Mizoram, like you will just kind of feel like you are in a different like country altogether. Like that's how reclusive we are. That's how, you know, segregated we are even from mainland India. So yeah, but then, you know, I feel like with that, like you know, reclusivity breeds like this idea that we can't let anyone else in, you know. And also with that, on top of it comes, I feel like it breeds more grounds for racism, and because not because we are evil people in general, just but you know, or we choose to remain ignorant, but just because we don't have much window to the outside world, you know. Yeah. So I don't know, like I was wondering if you would be willing to talk a little bit about, you know, how you would feel when you come to a place like us, and then without knowing, right, like without knowing that we were racist towards your skin, versus, you know, now me telling you like you are black skin, and you know, say for instance, like if I were to, in my first episode I actually talk about marrying someone outside my culture. So I was talking about, you know, maybe marrying someone that is white versus someone that is black. You know, black is just a no-no. A no. Yeah, everyone in the society will just kind of, talk bad about me, just talk shit about me, versus if it's a white man, I probably will, I mean, some people will still kind of give me the eye and kind of question it, but it won't be as bad as me potentially, like, you know, marrying a black man. So I was just wondering, like, what, like when I tell you this, like, you know, what do you feel about that?
So obviously I cannot speak for all black folks.
Why not? You're like Nigel Ong. You represent the whole African nation there.
Right. But I think the sad reality is that every time we step outside of our homes, we kind of expect to be treated different, to be treated in a less flattering light because of her skin color. And so I've been to Europe as well. I've been to France, England, Spain. I've been to Canada. And even certain parts of Brazil, like the south, is where we have a lot of East Europeans, migrants. The expectation is to be treated differently because you're black. And in my experience, and I do need to stress that this is my experience, I feel the need to prove that I am just as human as the person from those culture. And what this means oftentimes, and is difficult, is that in that pursuit of trying to prove your humanity, you actually end up erasing it. And by that I mean, you might, you know, you've heard of code switching, or in certain places, I know that I cannot speak in a certain register, or I cannot have strong intonations, because people might think, oh, this is a black man and he's raising his voice, he must be aggressive, he must mean violence. And these are all stereotypes that I think as we become adults, as a black person, you become more aware of, depending on where you live. Mostly if you start noticing that, like in Susan Iowa, there's certain things you can do to earn people's favor, and certain things you can do that will make them think less of you. One of, if you're critical of, you know, Dutch culture here, then people are less likely to see you for the intelligence you might have. But if I speak eloquently about something that they like, then I'm like, wow, that's you're very articulate, Michael. And you know what I'm saying? And so I think, I don't know what it's like in Asia, because I've never been in any part of Asia, but the closest experience I have would be going over to Asian friends' houses and interacting with their parents.
How
and
did that
interesting.
go?
because
Yeah.
I think there is more of my experience was there was more of a lack of understanding of what is a black person, but at the same time there was also more room for changing mindset. And I do think that that's in my experience, because it's not, when people in the US talk about racism, they're talking about the systemic power, who gets to oppress who and who has the means to oppress who. And I think when it comes to my interactions with Korean friends, or oftentimes it was just, we don't really have folks from your country in my own, so I don't really know. So I might have some prejudice, but it's something that can go away with time. But then, I never tried to date a Korean girl, so I don't know what that would look like if then I tried to become a part of the family,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. I just have like so much more follow-up question, like that's
by all means.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I mean, obviously our skin color, like, look at us, like, we're different, right? But like you said, like, we're all human. We all feel like we have this need to prove. Like, I felt the same pressure when I came to a very small town in the Midwest, very conservative Christian, versus where I come from, where I was just immersed in a very diverse culture where I don't feel like I need to prove much, and then from there to a place where a foreign land, first of all, and then just wanting to prove things. But I don't know, I feel like for you, like, I feel like, well, I might be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but do you feel like sometimes you need to prove yourself double fold? Like, there's just that's like extra layer of pressure, because here you have to prove yourself to Asians, or like, you have to prove yourself to so much more race, versus just like, oh, I have to please the white man,
Yeah. No, definitely. One of the biggest things for me was that I felt that if your only interaction with a person of color is me, I need to make us look good. I need to try to go against as many stereotypes as we have, which is taxing, because that's the thing. Like, if you cannot express your ways in the culture that because people will get uncomfortable, or they'll get scared of you. And I remember hearing a story that completely floored me. I was like, whoa, that's the thing. So these folks adopted 2 black kids, and they had a daughter and they had a son. And as the son became a teenager, I think they had an argument with his family, and his family, they were both white parents. But as he became impassioned because he was upset, they called the cops on their son, because they were afraid of him.
Are you kidding me?
Because he was a black man raising his voice. And I think because of that, I do feel that need to prove that, and I hate saying this, but you're one of the good ones. And I think it's because as a black person, the stereotypes, if they're not about sports or music, they tend to not be in your favor, They're like, well, if you do, if you speak in standard English, you will get that comment, oh, you're so articulate. I'm like, what do you mean I'm so articulate? Why do you feel the need to bring that to light? Or,
oh yeah, definitely.
Or you're well-mannered, you're polite. I'm like, why is this surprising?
Yes.
This is just normal.
Yes.
Most people are polite and respectful. So yeah.
That's funny, because I don't know, like, even at work, right? Like, even when I was at Sioux Falls and I was working for that hospital that I was in, that's basically every interaction. I'm not being over dramatic. That's every interaction that I have with my patients is, oh wow, your English is so good. Like, and their first thought doesn't go to, oh, why is this woman that looks Asian, why is she so good at articulating an English accent, like an American accent, but their thought goes to, oh, she must be adopted, or it must be something else, right? So say for instance they'll ask, just to be polite, where are you from, because I am so good at articulating, right? And so when I tell them I'm actually, because they'll, sometimes, just to play games, like just to have fun, I ask them to guess where I'm from. And of course, they guess all the Oriental places first, of course, right? Because I look like this. Usually I get Filipino, all that stuff, but I'll be like, I actually am from India. And they're like, India? And then all of a sudden, right? Like, it somehow double surprises them that I am from India, because when they think about India, they think of it as Slumdog Millionaire. They think of it just as this very downtrodden, like rotten place where there's no progress, And so of course, like their mind immediately goes to, oh, you must have come from a very rich family. Yeah, and I'm like, no, actually. Yeah, right. So I'm just like wondering, like, do you feel like that's how most white folks view us as? If we are great at articulating, if we're great at their accent, and we are linguistically intelligent, right? Like, do you feel like that's what they go to, versus like, maybe thinking, oh, maybe they're actually really intelligent creatures, intelligent human beings?
That's a good question. I think white folks, historically speaking, are at a disadvantage because their governments for so long have worked into really ingraining these stereotypes, to the point that I think even good intentions really comes off harmful and offensive, because I just don't think that it's been normalized to just take people as they come. And I think that needs to box them, to label, to see, oh, I don't know how to interact with Fee, but if I know that Fee is an Indian, then this is how I'm gonna think, oh, maybe that's how I should talk to an Indian person. And then I can use that route to try to create a rapport, which makes absolutely no sense. And so I don't know that that's specific to, I think the lens of race in America might be a very strong one, but I do think that in everywhere I've been, there have always been stereotypes. But the question, where are you from, usually comes from, I don't know, from an accent more so than from a racial point of view. If that makes sense.
Oh, definitely.
So to, I guess, answer the question directly, I think the question of, does this person think that I'm human or just a very intelligent thing? I think they recognize a base humanity. But then again, in America, I think humanity is something that you negotiate regardless of what you present as, to the point that if you're running in conservative circles, you will hear horrible things said about a leftist and vice versa. And so I do think that that's maybe an American ail, is that humanity is earned and it's never given generously.
I agree. I freaking wholeheartedly agree to that. I think you already talked about it. Like, we touched on it already. Like, you said that when you're well articulated, like, there's just a little bit more respect, isn't it? Versus, like, say for instance, like, even I feel like you're still doing an accent, to be honest, because Michael, I have heard you try an American accent before, so I feel like you purposefully are doing this accent still, right? And that's me too. I'm purposefully doing this American accent even though I don't want to, but compared to yours, like, you have this kind of Brazilian sexy voice, right? Versus mine, it's Indian, it's brown, it's not sexy at all. If I do like an Indian accent and I talk like this, like, it's not sexy.
I think it's really cool. Like, I love Indian accent.
it just kind of sounds comedic, like, it just sounds hilarious. Like, it just sounds like we're doing versus like sultry and like this deep, like, I don't know, because You speak French. Of course, it's a beautiful language. Like French is just so beautiful and sexy in general, right? And I don't know, like, but anyways, I don't even know why I brought that up, but it just came to my mind. But yeah, so yeah, I always do this fake accent, even like though I really do not want to carry this accent. So when I came to America, when I was a freshman, I actually have the Mizo. So the Mizos have a specific form of accent called the Minglish. We just call it the Minglish. It's a Mizo English, and it's very tribal. It's very thick, like yeah. And so I used to use that. However, you know, and then of course, like we use the British form of English, where the jargons are way different than the American accents. Or the American jargons. And so of course, like, you know, everyone corrected me. It wasn't just the white folks that corrected me. We, you know, I don't know, did the international table still exist when you came? At the cafeteria?
Honestly, I skipped the cafeteria, so I don't know. I was like,
lucky you. See, okay, I did not know that the grill existed for a long ass time.
Oh yeah.
So I was forced to go to, yeah, anyways. So there was this international table at the cafeteria or at the Commons. And so, yeah, even the international kids, they corrected me. You know, so say, for example, like back at home, yeah, so for a tree, right, like a green tree, we say tree, right? And so everyone's be like, well, if you say tree, it's like the number, it's more of like something else, like, and then when I try to say the number 3, they say, you know, like I say tree, and they're like, well, you're saying tree instead of the number 3, and they're always correcting me. And so I got so sick.
I get that.
Yeah, I got so sick of it that I kind of forced myself to start speaking the American accent, and then I kind of let go of my tribal accent, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and I don't know, somehow, like, especially after I started working, and, you know, all these white folks, all these, you know, people keep asking me, oh, why do you have this accent? Why do you have this accent? You know, I would kind of jokingly just answer them with, well, do you want me to do an Indian accent? Because I can, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a joke, of course, like, I was just trying to be facetious, of course, but I don't know, like, I somehow sometimes feel that I am abandoning my culture, that I am not being, you know, faithful to my people back at home. I'm not representing enough. But I don't know, like, do you ever feel that as well? Like, where you feel like maybe you are deviating too much from, you know, who you are to be, like, you know, you're not your authentic self and you're assimilating way too much?
To be perfectly candid, I think I don't even know anymore. Like, and that's because I went to British boarding school at 12.
Oh,
and at that school, you were told, do not speak anything other than English. And if you did, you got in trouble. And a lot of us, we lost our Portuguese, we lost our French, and it's shameful, but sometimes, because I don't get to speak either of these languages a lot here, if I'm talking to my parents, sometimes I'm like, yo, I don't remember how to say that in French. And then I have to like use Google Translate because I legit don't remember. And I think there is a part of who I might have been that was lost in that process, you know. And what is then messed me up is that English not being one of my languages is when I learned, I don't have an English accent because it depends who I'm learning it from, you know. So before I came to Dort, I was in Canada, and I'm like, this is my first time in an English-speaking country, so I'm gonna, you know, try to improve my accent. That's what I thought. So I was like, yeah, the boat, the hills, the drove. And I came here, and people are like, you need to put an end to that. And I'm like, why? And then, you know, and then I came to Iowa, and so I had a type of English, and then I went to Harlem, and then I worked there, and then I started to have a different, very, you know, very black accent. And I always wonder, which one am I? And I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
But I do think that you're right to say that there's a part that that I feel like it's untethered me from my community.
Gotcha.
And I think that realization really sucks.
It does,
But at the same time, there's a bit of a free a bit of a freedom in knowing that I am not responsible, for the perception of my whole community. Because I thought about it. I'm like, when I get tourists back home, they don't care. They are wild, and no one tells them to be anything. And even though, like in Senegal, we might feel a certain way about French tourists, I don't think the French tourist in his mind is thinking, oh, I need, whatever I do will reflect on France, so I need to be on my best behavior. And then I thought about it. I'm like, then why am I doing this? Why do I need to prove myself to people that don't, that are not important to me? And I think with that freedom, you start to explore your own identity. And I think your own cultural identity then becomes, this like hodgepodge of all these different influences. And then I realized, I'm like, yeah, I think I borrow a lot from African American culture, because to me, speaking impassionately, that makes more sense to me than just trying to be monotone.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm still, comments are, you speak too loud, for me too, but that's how we talk. That's how my family talk. We speak passionately, and this is how the tribal language is. Like, we speak from our stomach, our chest, and so so I'm always so proud to be loud and proud, and I know like that's not a great thing in America to be loud and proud, but but that's actually a great perspective to have. I've actually never thought about it that way, that it's actually freeing. So thank you for that, because
you're welcome.
Because I don't know, like for me, I still have such a hard time being in America, especially being from a smaller community, someone that's from, a minority, like even as a minority, we're minorities, we're tribal folks, right? And so there's just this part like that I feel like I always need to preserve, like that I can't just be like, oh, I'm in America now, like I can live as an American. I always feel this need to somehow represent, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I love that.
But I think like you mentioned earlier, and I'm sure we'll get to it, but like, what is a model citizen? And I do think that that's something that, and I don't want to bring everything back to colonialism, but I do think that that's a legacy of it, is the idea that you have to prove that if you see that I am good, then next time that a brother shows up, you'll give them the treatment that you didn't give me. And so there's a little bit of that. I'm looking out for the next folks, and I definitely did it. And I mean, I don't think they'll be watching this podcast, I'll speak openly, but there was a kid there who was trying to talk to the school during BLM, saying, hey, some of us are being called slurs, we're feeling unsafe, we would want to know if the school can take a stance to support and affirm Black identity. And they got gaslit. So they reached out to alumni, and we got together, we had Zooms, and we tried to have conversations with Dora and whatnot. But there was this moment of realization that I'm like, think about it for a minute, man. Like all the emotional labor, all of the intellectual labor, because like, we went there to get degrees, so we were working hard, we were involved in all sorts of things.
Definitely.
And it's never changed a damn thing. And when I realized that, when I heard this guy who was, I think, a senior, and that was 3 years after I graduated, talking about his experience, I'm like, yo, that was my experience. Nothing's changed. All that work, all of these, erasing who you are to become someone they want to see in you, because they like the idea, but they don't like the reality of you. When I realized that all of that was for nothing, I was like, you know what? There is no reason to stick to the script. Like at this point, it's about me. It's about my welfare.
Yeah.
And in that moment, like honestly, it felt freeing, and I hope more people can feel that weight, that responsibility taken off, because it's not a way to live. Yeah. Because you're pleasing people that just don't won't care. Change. Yeah. They just don't care. Yeah, like you said, they don't care. So
isn't that the part that freaking hurts most though? Like that's the part that's like heartbreaking, is because it's not like you and I choose to be black or yellow skin or whatever color skin that they assign us to, right? And it's not as if we chose to be a certain race, and I guess that's the part that just freaking sucks is we didn't choose this, yet somehow just because they think they have the upper hand, we get to be treated as such. And you know, I feel like Michael, you and I know that you were a little bit older too, right, when you started college?
Yeah, I started, I think I was 21 when I started.
Yeah, same. I was 21 when I started. So, yeah, I think for me, it was easier to kind of take a stance where I say, they're just kids. And I try to forgive, you know?
Yeah.
Does it suck less? No. Does it hurt less?
Yeah.
No. And also, like, I do want to ask to, just to clarify, the ones that you said that you guys took an initiative, like to have meetings and all that, was it the one with the president's wife?
No. So we tried to straight up organize alumni BIPOC so that we could be a negotiating power and also a system of support for students. Because we thought, when you're going through college, adore, it's a lot. You should not be the one trying to create, you know, a black union. You should not, like, emotionally. How many of us were depressed, like clinically diagnosed with depression by senior year?